Hi, I'm Craig Grant, and this video is about the road to the 3-step lesson plan. First of all, you need to choose who you will be wisely. In 1971, there was a teacher shortage. I was underprepared and I had no help, and I began teaching. What I did have going for me was my mindset. First thing, I wanted to be the best I could be. The second thing, specifically, I wanted to be the teacher I wanted to have when I was at school. That was important to me. Now, I used a great combination of things. First of all, I adopted an action learning mindset, right, which led to, over here, continuous improvement. This is my storyboard that will help me remember everything. And I'll go down here to my action research cycle. Basically, I would teach. Then I'd watch myself and my students, so I'd be quite present. I could do that. And after the lesson, I would evaluate and analyse what had happened. And then I would consider all the factors. Because, see, we asterisk here, I knew nothing. So I had to consider absolutely everything. And what I did was I improvised an experimental improvement, right? So I messed around, figured out what I could do. Basically, if you have a lesson plan that doesn't work, you've got to change it. Now, this next bit, creative visualization. See, there's a loop here. I go out here and here. While I'm figuring out what I'm going to do next, I use creative visualization. And this came out of a study on basically sportsmen use creative visualization to practice doing what they want to do and do the shot. So the golfer's out there in a competition and he has to make a putt. What he does, he looks at everything, takes everything in, and then goes through the shot in his mind 2 or 3 times, and then he takes a shot. And good sportsmen do that, and they get the shot right. So, when I was doing this sort of stuff, basically what I did was, I would run lessons in my mind, like movies, right? And if it ran okay, that was fine. If it didn't, I'd rerun it. And say it ran okay up to a point and then it didn't seem to work well after that, I would go to that point and then change things. So what I was doing was I was practicing teaching before I got into the classroom, and I was using my limited knowledge. But as I did more teaching, my knowledge was less limited. The other thing is, this thing created input for my subconscious. So I was feeding a lot of stuff into my subconscious, right? And that's quite important. And then I'd go out here and teach again, and I just keep going through the cycle and keep improving. All this stuff here leads to the 3-step lesson plan. Now, there's another factor I'm going to bring in here. There are 2 ways to be fooled. One is to believe that it isn't true. To believe in what isn't true, right? One is to believe in what isn't true. So you believe the wrong thing. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. And this comes out of a book that I've just been reading. I can't pronounce that name, but it's true. Now, the point I want to make now is having no help was a blessing. Now you'll ask, why is that? That's because I wasn't limited by 20th century education misconceptions. Now these misconceptions are limiting, right? That's quite important for you to realise. And on another video, so you've got this little asterisk here there to remind me to tell you that on another video I'll do that, I'll deal with that. The other thing is, the situation I find myself in was basically this. If mathematics teaching was a religion, I would be a heretic. Think about that for a minute. Now, I was at my first school for 2 years. I go to the second school, head department's quite good, actually, very good. And I start collaborating with him, and then I run into problems. And it was a belief misconception problem with a reality link. And got to see it from his point of view. I'm a young teacher, I come in, and I'm all enthusiastic, and I talk to him about things. And then he turns around to me and he says, "You can't do that. It's not possible." And I say, "Oh, I disagree, I think you can." Now, he has his own reality, and that's been shaped by educational misconceptions. Now, I know from my experience what I can do, and I have to make a choice. Well, the first choice I made was not to talk to him anymore because, he was just too negative. But when I thought further, I realised I'm out of step, right? So I've got a long-term choice to make. What am I going to do? Am I going to conform, or am I going to walk alone? Because what I'm doing was quite different from my colleagues. So I made that choice. I walked alone, right? I didn't do what they did. And there's a price to be paid if you do that. But I paid it willingly. Now, the final, let's have a look here, the final one. Now this book I was reading had this straight above it. And it's amazing that they were just both together, and I'm using them in this video. Do not believe anything simply because you've heard it. Do not believe in anything because it is spoken and rumoured by many, or merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Well, if I looked at that, a whole lot in the past, I'd have thought that was a bit sort of tough. But now, in hindsight, I believe it's the truth. But after observation and analysis, see how I've underlined that? That links to my action research cycle. I observed, I analysed, I found things out, right? When you find that everything agrees with reason, then accept it and live up to it. Some of the things that I found through my observations were at odds with education thinking at the time. Now, who do you think said that? I'll show you. That's what Buddha said, and that's when he lived, 1563 BC to 483 BC, and we're done.